Okay, this isn't going to be Project Moon related, it's Total Warhammer 3 related instead. Figure I at least give Creative Assembly something since I chanced my way into an early access key for the new Bhashiva character pack DLC for the game. Plus, we're going to do something real funky and adapt the format of my Limbus ID reviews over here instead. We've got a decent bit of ground to cover, so we'll see what I can do with it. I'll mostly be using the stats from the browser and skirmish mode, so your mileage will definitely vary in campaign, especially with Bhashiva's unique campaign. Speaking of which, let's start with Bhashiva the White Tiger. The newest addition to the Grand Cafe roster, this tiger is a teleporting nightmare duelist in furry form. Starting with her base stats, we can see she is built for quick hit and run tactics, more of a flanking duelist rather than a brawler or scrapper. Comparing her to the equally priced Karl Franz, she has almost 1,000 more health, 18 more speed, 5 more melee defense, and 30 more weapon strength, reaching parity in leadership and melee attack, that of which for Bhashiva is flaming and magical compared to Karl's flaming only. He loses out in armor and charge bonus, having 40 less armor and 15 less charge bonus, but has many ways to supplement charge in some disgusting ways. All that to say, she can body Karl Franz in a head-to-head fight most times, and far worse on a flank or ambush. Anyhow, as for passives, Wounds is one of the more common ones, reducing combat effectiveness dramatically upon going under 25% HP. As she's something of a disruption and flanking master, you should pay a good amount of attention to her HP in order to keep her in peak performance. She will suffer a lot at low HP, losing 100 weapon strength split as 64 armor piercing and 36 base damage. All that to say, she's losing a lot of burst potency as she gets chunked below 25%. The loss in speed also fucks with her ability to get to and out of danger. This also applies to a majority of lords, though it is particularly troublesome here due to her job. Beyond there, she has Ferocious Ambush. This is a huge bump in attributes related to charge, notably a 25% charge speed bump alongside a 15% speed and charge bonus. On top of all of that, it grants Devastating Flanker, which is a huge ×2 for charge bonus, far eclipsing even some fancier cavalry out there. For reference, this is on par with Grail Knights even. Reminder that this bonus lasts around 15 seconds before wearing off, meaning you should probably cycle charger or hop between formations for best usage of this trait, especially after teleporting into the rear with one of her later abilities. Master of the Hunt is her next passive. This is just a 50-meter bubble of true sights, revealing enemies within said range, useful for hunting down specific hidden enemies or those with stalk like herself. Speaking of which, her own attributes are Encourage, Vanguard Deployment, Strider, Stalk, Devastating Flanker, and Tiger Warrior, the last of which is unique to this new bunch of tigers. It factors in increased speed, charge bonus, and ferocious ambush. Beyond there is a 20% physical resistance, letting her resist non-magical attacks a little better. Lack of missile or spell resistance is of concern, but As for her actual abilities, these are as follows. Hidden Huntress is a 20-second debuff to an enemy's speed and melee defense, at 25% and -24 each. Essentially, for 20 seconds, that enemy is a sitting duck in melee. -24 is quite a lot. Say, looking at Karl Franz, that fella only has 45 at base. He loses half of his ability to competently defend himself when hit by this hex. Next ability is Heaven's Gate. This is pretty much her signature ability. She teleports up to 150 meters, striking all foes upon arrival. It's a pretty nasty knockdown and results in heavy disruptions in enemy formations. This is your get into danger and subsequently get out of danger card. Unfortunately, it has quite the long cooldown at 120 seconds, far outlasting any other bonuses and abilities she has access to. Choosing when to jump in with this is very important, as getting a traditional flank may be more worthwhile in the end. Beyond there is her signature weapon buff, Blades of Shangyang. This is a huge stim in weapon power and melee attack while applying flammable to the enemy. It lasts 32 seconds and all but ensures that she can assassinate most characters in the game, else do a huge amount of damage for the duration. In an army composition, she effectively acts as a scary as hell disruptor that suddenly appears in your back lines and wreaks pure havoc. Not a fun time for the enemy, but funny as hell if you are the one controlling her. Personally, I use her to assassinate a lord or artillery piece before pulling her out. If you're running her with other tigers, you can jump her in to disrupt first before full sending it with the rest of the tiger warriors and whatnot. Essentially an improvised anvil if need be. Would not recommend quite as much since she is just a single model unit at the end of the day. Moving along, let's look at those more generic fellas. Them rank and file tiger warriors. I suppose a good spot of comparison is any other dual weapon shock infantry. These guys act as more of a hammer than rank and file, making Bhashiva's campaign a tad troublesome with its cafe unit limits. Regardless, if we take a point of comparison as Norska's Marauder Berserkers, things are a tad troublesome out the gate regardless. While we have a far better baseline in armor, speed, melee attack, defense, and weapon strength, we lose out in leadership and charge bonus. This would make one think that perhaps the Tigers have more staying power, but they lack additional passives and attributes that offer such. For the Berserkers, they don't have any strong conditional needs. As long as their leadership is high and they aren't dead, they become rather scary all of the time. Tiger Warriors, on the other hand, need a fair bit of setup, mostly in needing to get off a good charge to benefit from devastating flanker. Since the charge bonus is only temporary, they can get killed off quite fast the moment it wears off. To make matters worse, their defenses are rather terrible. While the Marauders lack armor, they get some physical resistances. Same cannot be said about the Tigers, who can and will get bodied by almost everything. I will not lie to you, Bhashiva's campaign gets increasingly hard the more missiles are thrown your way. You can only run and hide for so long on a map before you get blown up by artillery or riddled with arrows. Worse still, fired upon by lead belchers. This campaign is a special kind of pain if you play it the way it was intended. Unfortunately, this means the campaign has soured my opinion on these guys, but I digress. They're too conditional to make particularly good. They can hide in forests though, for what it's worth. Anyhow, best use case is as a cheap hammer into cafe troops with better staying power. A part of me would rather use guns or other missiles in a proper formation over this. The Tigers can pull their weight if the conditions are ideal. Now the Stalker Tiger Warriors. In concept, they're pretty cool. Stalking Tiger units that pop up, throw shit, and charge it. In practice, they need an anvil even more so than the regular guys, having less armor, HP, and stopping power. These guys feel like paper the moment they're revealed and cannot really fend for themselves as well as you might think. They do, however, have far more durability against missiles, of the non-magical variety at least. It also helps that they have Stalk, allowing them to avoid most of those pesky issues in regards to those two. Wildwood Rangers would be my best comparison, I suppose, but those at least sport better staying power when they actually get into melee. At least these fellas sport a 20% physical resistance, but yeah, staying power is really to be desired. In terms of other traits, they can Vanguard deploy, throw projectiles on the move, and of course have Ferocious Ambush. If they catch a good flank after stalking around, they can and will do quite a lot of damage. But otherwise, without that level of setup, they will amount to very little. Keep that in mind when employing both Tiger units mentioned thus far. As for Ironclaw Tiger Warriors, take these guys. These fellas are insane. Not only do they actually have the staying power to fight the good fights, they have so much going for them beyond their Tiger capabilities. They have all the benefits of halberd or spear infantry, the armor piercing, the anti-large, the charge reflection, and charge defense against large. All the good stuff. But they're actually really mobile, at 44 speed like the normal Tigers. They make for amazing flank guards and a fantastic anvil, and when push comes to shove, they can fold in from the flanks and make use of all those Tiger capabilities. The Ferocious Ambush for a double charge bonus with devastating flanker. These guys are absolutely worth taking in comparison to the other two. The flexibility and multitude of traits make them particularly scary against pretty much all opponents. They even have the armor to soak some damage in comparison, double that of the standard Tiger Warriors. While they're now relegated to only hiding in forests rather than having stalk like the Middle Tiger, these fellows don't really need it, and are plenty fine as exceedingly competent flank guards. As for the new spellcaster, the Claw Speaker, they come in three varieties being Lore of Beasts, Life, and Shadows. If you've played Wood Elves, you'll be very familiar with these three schools. In terms of unique abilities outside of those laws, they carry a unique ability and passive each. Beasts get Mantra of Righteousness, allowing them to enhance Tiger Warriors with Armor Sundering. In addition, they also get Ferocity of Kamau, offering unyielding assaults to nearby Tiger Warriors, preventing them from losing melee attack. Life, on the other hand, gets Mantra of Invigoration. It's a heal bump and vigor bump for 32 seconds. Works on Tiger Warriors. Protection of the Kamau, on the other hand, is some physical protection for Tiger Warriors. Last, with Shadows, is Arcane Hymn, shooting up Winds of Magic and Power Recharge, alongside Mysticism of Kamau, offering Tiger Warriors magical attacks. All varieties of these casters are surprisingly competent in melee and share all the Tiger traits, likewise getting Ferocious Ambush. Last for this mini DLC pack is the Tiger Sawai, a fighter similar in baseline to a Dark Elves High Beast Master, I suppose. They're kinda weird in a few respects. They have all the capabilities of the best Ironclaw Tigers and are functionally just a flanking duelist. While not on as insane a level as the legendary Lord, they're still a decent force to be reckoned with, able to hold their ground in a lot of fights. Unfortunately, the lack of armor will go against them in prolonged engagements, even with an increased melee defense. In terms of passives, they've of course got Ferocious Charge, but also have an odd one: Fight Fire with Fire. If for some reason they get set to the torch, they will start torching their enemies and deal more damage. Kinda neat, but also very edge case. Rather odd, I suppose. They do get some flame resistance to make this particularly terrifying, alongside the ability to cause terror. Rather funky stuff. Aside from that, their actives are dueling minded. Guiding Strikes weakens the opponent's damage, increasing the Sawai's melee attack, whereas Predatory Instincts buffs their own weapon damage. The gap through using both can make for quite the strong duelist, and a fast end to a lot of enemy lords and units. Here is where I'd go over the team composition and whatnot, but honestly, I am at a bit of a loss with these guys. I'm not the most experienced with Cafe, but they feel like a more traditional army rather than one full of whimsy, making it more difficult to place these flanking and ambushing tigers than most. Bhashiva is a unit of their own, acting as a backline disruptor and overall headache for people, but the rest of these fellas seem kinda jank. Mostly the Tiger Warriors and Stalkers, to be honest. The Iron Claws make for some fantastic flank guards and can double as a hammer when required. All that to then ask, is picking up this mini DLC when it launches tomorrow worth it? Well, if you want a very painful new campaign to play, sure. The damn thing feels needlessly hard, especially with one of the worst possible starting zones. Aside from that, the new stuff feels like it's, well, just good enough to get a weekend's worth of fun out of it. If you think $5 is worth that, go ahead. Add to the pile of toys you've got lying around to mess with. There's some team and army composition challenge there for you if you want to dig into it. But for me, I think I'll just stick with my Jade Warriors, firearms, and constructs while playing Cafe. This has been something of a new subject on my channel. Thus far, it has mainly been Project Moon, but during Dead Weeks, I suppose it's worth exploring some other avenues. After all, you never know who might be watching along. Thanks for using me as second monitor content, especially if this is the first time you're running into my stuff. Hopefully it isn't the last. While I mostly do Project Moon related stuff, this is one of my first forays into branching out to other stuff. Thus, if you enjoyed the content, like the video, and if you want to see more in the future, subscribe to the channel. Gives me an indicator if this format is working or not. Comment below what your favorite faction is. Mine is Wood Elves, which is a stark contrast to my love of Admech and Necrons in 40k. For those still in the Project Moon hole though, don't worry. I'm not hard pivoting, I'm just dreading writing a lore video on the middle, which is inevitably next. Thanks again for tuning in, appreciate it.